And when you realize that you yourself are composed 100% of fields, and that you yourself are measuring this world yourself, the motion of your appendages, your own thought process, everything about you, you are literally measuring that 100% of the time. So in any experiment derived to locate a particle is a moot point due to the fact that you have already measured it. So, and I try to, and what supports that is the fact that you can't transform a field in 5-dimensional space. So we're living in 5 dimensions. So you can't, that fact that it's impossible to transform volume. You just make it spin. You just show the volume from a different perspective. The perspective of a conscious observer at a different reference point than your own. And you're showing it at almost infinite, depending on the amount of energy or numerical notation you're putting into your transformation on a plane. You're showing, what all of that is showing is the amount of reference points that can be accessed by an observer. So, and when I input my idea of the quantum world into vector transformations, it just made what I thought at first was the z-axis, and so my naivete at that point in time, I thought that transformation and the reason behind that infinite line, or that ratio, or that those coordinates extended for eternity, was due to the fact that that's how one-dimensional space emerged two-dimensional space, and then from two-dimensional space emerged three-dimensional space. And I was, but I knew from the only possibility that I had, that I was trying to plug into these vector coordinates was impossible, because you can't plug in volume. You can do tangents and orthogonal plotting, and you can certainly plot topologically the vector path of a jet and projectile and whatnot. But you can't plot the entire space that that is containing these objects of matter. And I said earlier, there are no particles. There is no matter either. Matter is a mental construct. It's a construct of fields. It's a construct of your measuring your environment. And we have to. And so what's going on is, in the process of learning about the environment, we started to build the blueprint for the construction of our environment, but we're building it from the roof down instead of from the ground up. So when I ran into the fact that you'll never find the foundation because you're going to constantly build down, because you don't know where the foundation of the roof begins. So you don't know how much is in between the roof and the foundation. So well, how in the world am I going to be able to figure this out if it's an eternal process to try to marry abstract and reality? And that's when I just threw out everything we call reality. What we call reality is matter, particles, and everything. It's real. Everything is fields, 100% field. There's no. We are interpreting fields as particles. So I said, well, how does time dilation play a role in this squishing and with velocity and scale? And when I got away from the vector and looked at the scalar, it boom! It was like it's a scale thing. It's not a motion thing. It's a scale parameter. It's a scale constant. So I'm going to introduce a scale constant of the literal of electromagnetic field radial diameter. That is a constant, literally, not the hypothetical or abstract notation of field waves, but the literal constant of each individual field. Each field has its own length. It cannot be stretched. It cannot be amplified. It cannot be changed in any manner other than by adding and multiplying it with another. So, that's it. Light has a finite length and across infinite scale. That diameter length can only radiate at scale iterations and intervals. How does that happen? And how can you measure that if without a notation process? Well, you let physics measure it for you. So I started with a blank sheet. I said, well, I can't graph something. I can't graph this because the graph paper is already printed and there are numerical values already assigned to these coordinates. A coordinate system's already laid out for me to use. So I can't put anything new on that system because that system is what's wrong. So I remembered my coach, my algebra and trigonometry and geometry teacher, Coach Graham, and he posed the fact that he defined a line for us. What is a line? And what is a point? A point is an infinite line. A line is an infinite point. That's it. That was the notation I could use to define numerical value. If every field is a constant length of one oscillation, then the next, and its mirror reflection is a longer one, and that's, through scale until that point that oscillated one time multiplied itself into 100% amplitude of a point again. That is from beginning to end, the wave gets longer and longer and longer. Now, what's the longest wave? A line. What's the shortest wave? A point. So they're one and the same thing. So what you have is a scale of iteration of field densities. That's how you can calculate exactly what a field is. That's how numerical value emerges. What about the imaginary numbers and the fact that you can only approach zero and approach a value? The Riemannian zeta functions say that. You can only approach, you can only approximate, you have limits, and that's that. There are no limits. Natural numerical notation is all that can be used at the quantum level. Because through natural numbers, real numbers emerge. And real numbers can only emerge in an asymmetrical field environment. And we know for a fact that fields are asymmetrical because you have directional quantifiable value. And that is angular momentum. And that was another problem. I was like, well, that angular momentum, oh my goodness. But that's when it came to me that there's only one direction you can go. And that's forward. Time can only move in one direction. That's forward. Scale can only move in one direction, and that's forward. You don't move at all. The scale value of your sum increases or decreases with your value, your energetic field value in volume. And how you can, riding with the constant of light, which we all do, we're all literally moving at the constant of light while we're not moving at all. How is that possible? It's possible because we're only moving through scale and we only move in one direction. And due to a sinusoidal asymmetrical field interference and non-interference summation patterns, we